Hi everyone, welcome to WW Designs. My name is Nikki and today I have to make the first of two projects for my junk journal swap partner. I have a playlist called Creative Collab Journal, all about the ephemera I have been making and receiving for the last year and a half. So the lady I'm swapping with likes pink and brown. So I've presumed from those colours we want something that's a little vintage looking. This scrap is 25 centimetres by 17 centimetres. I've rounded the corners and I've inked everything with Distress Oxide Vintage Photo. So don't get hung up on the actual size. Make one with a scrap that you've got, or make one that you think will be a good fit for the journal page you want it for. We're both making, or all of us are making A5 size journals, so I thought this would fit really nicely on a page. And then to decide how big you want it, measure your main finished size and then add the same on the right hand side and a bit less, I should say, on the left. Simple as that. But yes, basically mine's 25 by 17. So now we have to add some fun little things inside. So we are going to have a top tuck on the left, a pocket in the middle, and some cute little, just a simple little note page arrangement on the right. Now, with this first top tuck, it's just a very simple triangle. This is a great way to use up some scraps. And I just made sure that when I cut my triangle, it was a tiny bit smaller than the width of where it's going. Also, handy hint, hang on to your shape, whatever that may be, with your thumb and forefinger in the zone where you don't want any glue. That way you can't accidentally put glue on the wrong sides. I have done that before, especially when the pattern on the back doesn't match the front and my eyes just got it all wrong. So I learnt that trick and I've been using it ever since. And then we're just going to nestle that up in this left-hand corner, just the tiniest bit inside. I don't want any of it hanging over. And we now have a tuck spot. Then the next bit, I have started with a square and simply cut off an edge to give it an interesting shape, rounded the corners, inked the edges, surprise, surprise. And I'm doing the same thing. This one's, of course, a little bit easier because of the shape. It's pretty obvious where you don't want glue. But honestly, sometimes, you get carried away with the old glue and you go, oops-a-daisy, I can't make a pocket if I end up sealing it down. So hang on to it in the right spot and it will save you from making a mess. In this case, I'm just using scraps. I can easily make another one, but it's better if you don't. So I'm placing this, of course, down the bottom. And you will see I've got a nice little bit of clearance on each side so that when you close it up, you don't have any interference. Otherwise, it doesn't close properly. And then we're going over to the right-hand side. Now, this is something a little bit different. I've got 2 pieces of coffee dyed paper here, which, of course, I have inked the edges of. And we're going to actually glue these straight down onto this right-hand side. Now, if you wanted to, you could use the little piece that we stick on top. You could have as just glue it down across the top and then make a tuck spot and put a little notepad in here. But I'm sort of copying this design from Kathy's Garden. That was the reference we were given for this piece so that we know what we're making. And she's just stuck it straight down and it just makes a fun little journaling spot. And of course, if what you write on the first piece, no one has to see unless they actually flip it up and have a look. So it's sort of a bit like a hidden journaling spot. But you could just tuck the pieces up and under it. But I'm going to follow the directions that Kathy gave us. And as you can see, the two pages are slightly different size. You can make yours all the same size, but she just had hers done that way for a little bit of difference, so I thought I would do the same thing. And then I'm just running some glue. Of course, I've broken my own rule and I'm holding it in the wrong spot, but this one again is also simple because it's got that funny shape, so it's obvious I don't want glue along there. And then you just stick that down and you've got a couple of sheets of paper. You could add a couple more sheets if you wanted, but I didn't want this too chunky. Completely up to you. Use your imagination and see what you can come up with. So that is the basics done inside. Now we can add some decoration. You could leave yours like this. Nothing wrong with that. But of course, I like to be a little bit extra. So I found this pink piece in my stash and I could not believe when I checked the size that it actually fitted. You know how often you think, oh, wouldn't that be perfect? And then, of course, it's too small. So I was very lucky. And because I wanted to sort of sit quite close to the bottom edge, I don't really want it to hang over too much. And I hate those little things there's little lids when it gets in your way. So, yes, I had to hold that down. But, yes, I'm not putting the glue right up on the edge because I want the glue to hold the top of that lace trim down. So I'm heading a little bit more inland there just so I can get it to be quite a flush fit. And we're just going to hold this down. This glue that I use, Tiger Grip, I'll pop it up in a minute, you'll see, is absolutely fabulous for things like this. It doesn't take long to dry, holds it perfectly, and but you still have a little bit of time to just, stretch things or move it if you're not quite happy with where it's sitting. Now I'm just holding this there for a second. See, my Tiger Grip, it's marvellous stuff. It's my favourite craft glue. It's worth having in your stash, and there's so many other glues you don't need when you have Tiger Grip. And then we just have to trim off that excess. This is actually quite thick. I didn't realise it wouldn't cut simply. It took me a few goes to actually get through it. And see how it's quite almost flush with the edge? I liked that. Then I want a bit of deco on the front. So I've grabbed a few things from my stash. And this is where I grabbed a couple of things. And sometimes you have an idea and then you go, how is this actually going to look? This was my first plan. You'll see what I'm doing here. And then, of course, I realised because it all worked perfectly when I didn't have that piece of lace trim there. It all fitted nicely, but adding the lace trim, that first piece that I picked there just didn't look right. It was too wide. So I had that second option, and you'll have a look. I'll just play with this down here. I intended to have the other piece in that spot, but I now realise, no, I'd made up my mind. I want those 3 bits on the front. So all of these are quite thin paper. So instead of using Tiger Grip, I'm just using my good old Oohoo glue, which is always my go-to choice for thinner paper. And I always keep my junk mail magazines that come. These are real estate ones from the area that I live in. They make great glue books. And then when all the pages are gunky and stick together, I then pop it in the recycling bin. and then the final piece down. I learnt a long time ago, whenever you're doing deco, the power of 3 is very kind on the eyes. So quite often I will always use 3 pieces of ephemera to create some decoration. Now we have to add something here on our left-hand side. So the first thing I did, I found this fabulous scrap. It has to be relatively long and thin. And on the back, I've added some coffee-dyed paper that got a little bit of pink in it that must have been left over on the plastic sheet that I was using when I was coffee dyeing. And sometimes I get annoyed when that happens, but other times you find them in your stash and wham, I needed pink, so it looks perfect on the back. This is another little scrap I found in my collection, and I thought it would be perfect to add as a little bit of trim. Not enough glue on the end there, so a tiny dob more. And then hanging on to that, which is what I should have done when I put the trim onto the cover. It would have made it a bit more stable, and I probably would have been a little bit easier to cut through that thicker lace. So that journaling card now just tucks in nicely. Pretty little bit of lace that hangs out over the bottom. Also went through my stash. I want a little bit of something. This little triangle tuck spot is a little bit boring. So just found a few little things. It's just a little ticket. It has pink printed on it, so I thought that was a good choice. And of course, I just showed you that I want to have that ticket hanging over the edge, right? And what do? I put glue on that whole silly piece. So handy hint, always have a little scrap of baking paper handy. That way you can glue it down, not have to worry about trying to scrape off all the glue, and you can just gently, easily pull it away. It will slightly adhere, but not much. So it is the safe way to save you from a glue disaster. If you're like me and you get a bit overzealous with the glue, that's how I solve that problem. I found this little tiny green scrap. I've got a tub full of little bits and pieces that are left over from other projects. And so when I'm doing something like this, instead of having to find a piece of green cardstock and get my die cut machine out, I have this tub full of little bits and pieces, and I decided I would just use what I found in my tub, because that's the whole idea, use up your scraps. And I didn't use my glue stick for this. I find with fine little things like that, it's very easy to tear delicate pieces. So tiny little dobs of glue work much better than rubbing it with a glue stick. And then I found this simple little flower, again in my little scrap tub. Again, got a bit carried away with the glue, but it's okay. Baking paper will save the day. Just leave the baking paper there for a few minutes, and then you can get rid of it. And your glue will not stick. Now, as you can see, it's sitting up slightly raised, so it can dry properly while we play on the other bit. So for the centre, I went through my stash and tried to find something quite neutral, especially because of this pink foil hearts that are on the back side of this cardstock. I wanted things to just tone down. So I found these two simple things in my stash, and that fills that pocket up nicely. And then we just have to add that last bit of ephemera. And guess what? I didn't get carried away with the glue. I actually didn't. pleasant change. And then we just pop that down. And we're finished. This is a very easy project. Now, the one thing though, I do feel it needs a closure. Now, Kathy did a more elaborate one, but because of the decoration and the lace, I can't really pop a little tab there. So I'm going to do the next best thing and cheat. I've made a little mark and I'm adding a little line of glue. And I've got this very pretty delicate trim that I bought at the op shop the other day. So I'm just roughly measuring it about halfway, just so that I glue it down sort of evenly. Doesn't have to be perfect because I'm going to tie a bow with it anyway. So we just put the first bit down, and then I'm going to grab the glue and place the glue like directly underneath that other little bit that has something for the glue to actually grip onto, and the same thing on the other side. Now, of course, if you actually attach this to your journal, you will slather glue all over that area and pop it down on the journal page. You won't have to worry about that pretty delicate ribbon ever going anywhere. But in case you want to clip it on or something like that, at least it's not going to fall off. And voila, we're finished. Great little beginner project, this one, but also you can make it as elaborate and as decorated as you want if your skills are more advanced or you just have pretty things that will work. But I hope you enjoyed this. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments box below. Give this video a thumbs up. And if you haven't already subscribed, I would love it if you did for more paper crafting videos. So until next time, stay safe and stay healthy. Bye for now.